1 in 10 men are shit and the other 9 do nothing. They might as well not fucking be there.
Choosing to not get involved has consequences. Maybe just not for you. I'm thinking about different things I've been hearing recently and watching recently, which I'll put at the end. Videos regarding abuse of women, men's inability to get it, men choosing to be bystanders. The basic takeaway is I don't understand any concept of morality, where I don't take responsibility for the fact that my inaction may result in consequences for someone more vulnerable than myself and more people after myself. Being a bystander and not getting involved is not simply you not having any consequences. In fact, it will often embolden and enable further abuse, as an abusive person has been validated in their belief, often true, that many people would rather not get involved than risk any repercussions to themselves. Most abuse involves hierarchy, some sort of power that one person has over the other person. Money, physical threat of violence, repercussions. And I've seen abuse happen in many different places: professional, educational, cultural, familial. And in most cases, when I've said that I need to speak up or I've spoken up, I'm often met with, why does it have to be you? Because quite often, I have the privilege of being able to walk away without it really affecting me. I have other protections and systems that will keep me protected. But I personally have no concept of morality where I am not responsible for the people who are abused after I became aware and didn't speak up. Because by not speaking up, I have made a choice. I was part of enabling the abuse. In cases when it's much smaller communities or groups or whatever, for example, I went to a small engineering school where I faced some pretty ableist abuse by professors, and engineering professors are quite famous for this, so much so that at most North American engineering schools, you will find students with disabilities who disproportionately end up leaving the program. They almost managed to get me out of there, but I decided I would raise a ruckus because it's just not right. It is more important for my sense of self that I speak up when I see something bad happening in a space I care about. Community, professional, familial, engineering, or as a man. I'm deeply impacted by the previous video that I made regarding this young girl who was abused by her parents. I wonder whether if I was the neighbor next door and I had been suspicious, would I have chosen to stay quiet because I didn't want to cause any drama and I didn't want there to be any repercussions for myself? Or would I have spoken up? I want to believe I would speak up, but I'm not sure. I'm no saint. I'm not perfect. The main takeaway from a lot of these thoughts I've been having is that rarely are there situations that are going to be without any repercussions or risk to ourselves to speak up. As a man who is trying to be a part of creating a safer world, I most likely will come upon situations where I will probably have friction with someone I personally know as I tell them, hey, that's not okay. Or I might get into a physical altercation as I step between a woman and some guy who decides, hey, violence is okay. None of this makes me uniquely good. I think it just makes me morally responsible. Because there is no such situation of having a free moral lunch, so to say. Anytime I choose that, hey, no, it is right to do this, it will often involve me having to accept that there's going to be some cost to it. And I'd rather stomach that cost than the cost of knowing there could have been people who were kept safe if I'd spoken up. And because I chose the path of convenience, people suffered. That's not okay. And the most important policing that happens for these sorts of things has to be within the communities. That's how that works. As men, we must stand up to other men. If no one in the engineering school spoke up or a student didn't make a ruckus, it wasn't getting out because they tried to contain it. Of course they would. In the end, the reality is our fears are often larger than the actual fallout. It's just the reality that there's more decent people than bad people. It's just that bad people, even if they're not intentionally bad, you're still horrible if you're horrible. They rely on the silence and and quiet observation of people around them, because they also rely on hierarchies of different types of power. And if you observe it, it sucks, but on some level you have a responsibility to now be a part of the solution, and that's really uncomfortable. In the end, you'll see this video by a very famous comedian saying that when 1 in 10 men are bad, if the other 9 don't speak up, they might as well not be there at all. And I will actually say no. If the other 9 don't speak up, they actually are part of making it worse, because that one relies on them enabling them in normalizing their abuse, and in some senses even helping them gain access to more victims.
How do we fix this? How do we stop this happening? It has to involve us. Like, well, I'm not part of the problem, therefore I must be part of the solution, because that's just not how this fucking shit works. 10 men are shit and the other 9 do nothing, they might as well not fucking be there. You have to actively be good and get involved. Instead of having this fucking hero complex of being like, I'm gonna beat up a rapist, fucking prevent one. Stop.
1 out of 4 women has had something terrible happen to them. They have had someone force themselves on them. 1 out of 4. And every one of those dudes, for the most part, wasn't some guy like waiting in the bushes to jump out and attack them. Most of those guys were people that they thought could be trusted. 1 out of 4 of you that are quote unquote good guys, you're standing on the sidelines and you're making this harder because you're throwing tantrums by going, oh, it's not all men. You're part of the problem too. Rather than going, you know what, maybe it is on me to actually, demonstrate that I'm safe.